Anurag ji, Samrinder ji, able to be here today amongst all of you to celebrate the 48th International Museums Day and the expo that has been organized by the Ministry of Culture and NCSM. I must say that we are looking forward to having Shri Govind Mohanji with us today, the Secretary Culture, but unfortunately due to the last minute changes, he was not able to come, and we will probably have him on a different occasion, but he has been a great supporter of National Council of Science Museum, and I must place on record our gratitude to him for all his support. Mugdhaji actually told you several impressive numbers. The growth of museums in the country, the growth of science museums in the country, the outreach that has increased in the last few years amongst people, making them aware of different cultural and scientific aspects. Mugdhaji is very modest, and I must place it on record that it would not have been possible without some of the outstanding efforts by her own in this particular regard. As the former head of CSIR family, I must also say that the National Council of Science Museum started under CSIR umbrella in the late 1970s, and then it was taken over by our sister ministry, Ministry of Culture, at that particular point of time. And therefore, we still consider NCSM as CSIR family, we still consider NCSM as one of our daughters. And therefore, for me, it's a special privilege to be associated with NCSM once again. One of the principal roles that the museums do, and very aptly, this year's theme that has been declared as the theme of International Museums Day is education and research. And the museums play an important role is taking the achievements of human knowledge to general public. Wherever we have creativity, wherever we have actually advanced frontiers of knowledge, wherever we have made new discoveries, all these are to be taken to people effectively. And India's museums, the 1,000 odd that Mugdhaji mentioned, have been trying to do that continuously. I was just talking to Arijit about a few things, and it occurred to me that some of the achievements of India's science, either historically or even the recent ones, are generally not been taken to public in a manner that they ought to have. And NCSM in this work is working continuously to take some of these achievements. I want to give a few examples of these. As all of you are aware, Calcutta has been one of the centerpieces in most of the knowledge generation in the country in last few hundred years. But perhaps some of the things that historically happened in Calcutta are not even known to people in Calcutta. There is a museum that NCSM has created along with Wellcome Trust and some other organizations on vaccines, for example. Today I believe that is in Bombay, but it was also displayed in Delhi for a short while. And that also talks about the practice of what we call as variolation, which is a precursor of vaccines that existed in India and China since the 11th and 12th century. Not many people are aware that Edward Jenner made his first vaccine in 1797, the vaccine against smallpox. But the practice of variolation for smallpox existed in India and China 500 years before that. And the variolation practice was very simple. Learned people from Banaras would go all over India. They would carry needles with them, and the needles would have inoculum from infected person, a person infected with smallpox, and they would go and touch that in some kind of a part of the skin on the forearm of uninfected person. Very similar to what we call as vaccination. Because of this, 30% mortality rate, people who would die of smallpox. Number two, people, even if they got smallpox, the variolated people would not have disfigurement. Their faces, hands and other things would not get disfigurement. Number 3, they would be lifelong protected by smallpox. Now this existed prior to Edward Jenner's vaccine, 1797. And this aspect has been actually brought forth even in the vaccine museum that has been done by NCSM. And I do hope that people become aware of similar kind of achievements of Indian science in multiple different areas through museums such as this. India's astronomy, India's metallurgy, India's mathematics has a glorious tradition. There are many things we can go on recounting on this particular platform, the achievements of India's science since ages. But unfortunately, what we have been taught in the schools does not cover much of that. And as we speak, we are in the process of revising the curriculum for the schools, and we are in the process of writing textbooks for the schools, the new textbooks. In fact, the first textbook for class 6 from NCERT will be out very soon, and we are attempting to highlight some of these achievements of Indian science even at the school and college level. And we do hope that will transform the perception of India's achievements in the general public in the coming generation. I give an example from 11th and 12th century. I want to come to more recent examples. And yesterday I had an opportunity to be at Durgapur. There is a CSIR lab in Durgapur called Central Mechanical Engineering Research Institute. And the occasion in Durgapur yesterday was we were celebrating National Technology Day. All of you are aware, 11th May every year since 1998 has been celebrated across India as National Technology Day. On 11th May 1998, 3 significant technologies were demonstrated to the country. One was Pokhran 2, that was carried out, the peaceful nuclear explosion as we call, by the Department of Atomic Energy. The second development was successful demonstration of the Trishul missile by the DRDO. And the third successful technology demonstration was the maiden flight of first indigenously made aircraft, Hansa, that was made by CSIR in air. And the then Prime Minister, Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, was so overwhelmed by the emotions of these 3 demonstrations that he instantly declared 11th May as a National Technology Day. And as a part of that celebration, we did that yesterday, 7 days later, in Durgapur. But the other occasion was also to celebrate 50 years of India's indigenously made tractor called Swaraj. Now, some of you might not be aware of the history of India's mechanical engineering industry, especially the younger children. When British left India in 1947, India practically had no industry. India's industry had begun in the right earnest by people like Jamshedji Tata, by people like Khwaja Hamid. So these people had started, for example, the iron and steel industry in Jamshedpur, or the power industry in Mumbai by Tatas. And Khwaja Abdul Hamid had started Cipla as the pharmaceutical industry. P.C. Rai had started Bengal Chemicals and Pharmaceuticals in Calcutta. But yet, India's industry was not sufficiently able to undertake some of the challenging problems in 1947. And because of that, we were dependent upon imports all the time. And in the mid-1960s, India faced one of the major crises of then, that for the first time since independence, we had faced a famine-like situation. You are aware of the famines? I don't need to remind in Bengal, the 1943 famine, which killed about 30 lakh people at that famine. 30 lakh. And we had faced similar situation in 1965, 1966. And that became a catalytic point for India's Green Revolution. People like C. Subramaniam, people like Shivaraman, who was an outstanding officer in Delhi, and of course, Professor M.S. Swaminathan, together decided that India's agriculture would change forever since 1960s. And we know today India is a surplus grain manufacturer in the world. But one of the things that also was important in agriculture was mechanization of agriculture, and also the ability to have our own pesticides. And mechanization ran into immediate problem because of the balance of payment crisis. 1965-1966, India faced a serious balance of payment crisis. We did not have cash to make purchases from overseas. It's just similar to 1990 balance of payment crisis, when India had mortgaged almost all of its gold to someone else. Something similar was happening in 1965-1966 because consistent lack of rainfall in the two seasons prior to that.